Sirens, Slammers, and Service, a podcast for female first responders by female first responders. Hey guys, wanted to pop on here before we got into this next episode and let you know about a couple new rad ideas that we have for the podcast. So, the first one is we have a survey up, and I would love to know what you guys think about the show. I'd love your feedback. I'd love your ideas for the next season. And I'd just love to know what you like and what you dislike about the podcast. And I'm going to sweeten the deal with a $50 gift card randomly drawn from everybody that completes the survey. The survey is going to be in the show notes of all of our shows. So no matter what time you start listening to the podcast at, you'll get a chance to win that gift certificate. The second thing that we're bringing in now is the ability for you guys to leave us a voicemail. You guys can actually call into the show, leave us a voicemail, let us know what you think about the show. If you have a funny story you'd like to share from your time as a first responder, I would love those and showcase those on the show as well. So make sure you guys check out that voicemail feature. It's going to be in the show notes, and check out the survey. Make sure you get that chance to win that gift certificate. And now let's get back to what we all came here for, and that's another badass female first responder. All right, welcome back, guys. We are back with the second part of our Fish and Wildlife episode, where I am joined by Dana Kopp, who is an investigator with Alberta Environment and Protective Areas, Therese Bogatko, who is a Fish and Wildlife officer and has been since 2019, and Kim Lougheed, who is the recruiting and staffing specialist with the sheriffs with a focus on fish and wildlife officers. So going back to the kind of beginning of the process, that written test, is that just like a aptitude test? Like we're just trying to figure out, like, can you read and can you write and can you comprehend? Or, because I mean, really,
Yeah.
I mean, we got to actually do that nowadays.
So
'cause
it's
there's a
not,
lot.
it's not like those tests that EPS and CPS do. It is knowledge-based related to anything that you need to know about a fish and wildlife officer that you probably have learned in school. If you have a good understanding of hunting and fishing legislation, some wildlife ID, like things that you would have learned in school, essentially. And we have a lot of applicants that don't meet the minimum recruitment standards because they don't have at least a 2-year diploma in a related education. So
I was going to say, well, that's what I'm hearing a lot of times from like the recruits that are coming through to me to run their pair, because that's also a requirement to be fish and wildlife, right? Is that you need that physical fitness standard. And so they, they're like, oh, luckily, most of them are thinking about this before the application comes out, right? Or before the posting comes out. And they're like, yeah, I really want to do this. And that's the first thing I say to them is like, do you have this diploma or degree? No. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry to break it to you, but like, that ain't your journey, because you have to have it. And they're like, what? Like, what do you mean? And that's the first time they've heard that you need this, right? So to our listeners that are out there, if this is something you're interested in, it is a requirement. It's not like, and because I think they get sometimes confused with like, oh, and related experience. Well, I have, peace officer experience, or I have, I'm a sheriff already, or I'm a sheriff in a different province. It's like, if you don't have that natural resources component, like you're not going to get screened in. And so that's a huge part. And I'm really glad that you mentioned also like the hearing and the vision, because that's other things that I'm hearing from applicants is like, oh my God, I didn't know when I've gone all the way through. And it's like,
to go through that whole process, graduate from school, and then get the recruit package and find out that they're colorblind and they've wasted all of their time in school and we can't hire them. Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah.
And I want to point into like the schooling that we do. It's not just like, oh, some sort of scheme to get you to go spend money on a specific diploma. The schooling is very specific to the job. And Lethbridge College does an excellent job of that. It's not your typical school. Like your first year, you're doing your bio upgrades and stuff like that. But you're getting tested on a piece of a leaf and what the ID is. You're getting tested on what killed this animal, and you're doing a necropsy. You're going through the wildlife act section by section, reading it and understanding it. So when you go into the schooling, you don't have to have, like Kim said, like this running knowledge of hunting and fishing, but you need one or the other at least, right? To understand, because when you get in here, it's out of the frying pan into the fire in some sense, right? Yes, you have an FTO, but like we said, there's only 1 or 2 officers usually in a district, and there's so much calls. Like you're on your own. You work on your own a lot. You got to work through a lot of that on your own. And if you're not comfortable with firearms, if you're not comfortable with wildlife, with identifying things, you're going to have a really hard time starting up because a lot of the clientele we deal with expect us to be the experts on that from the start. And as a woman, you're already coming in with a bit of a challenge, because the guys you're going to check are going to be like, you know how to handle my firearm? You're like, yeah, I actually do. You know, I have like 10 at home. It's fine. Right. I could probably shoot it better than you at the Isaac shoot, which we also go to as women, FYI. So like, you know, you're not going to, it's not impossible. It's absolutely not impossible, but it's going to be a lot harder. Same idea coming from another province into learning Alberta's legislation and those kinds of things. You need to have a running knowledge of the seasons, you know, and the ID and all of this stuff, because that's you have to know it, like snap right then and there, because you're dealing with a guy that's not going to let you go back to the truck to look it up. You know, the public's expectation of us and our knowledge is very high, and the court as well, right? When I was in court last week, they're like, oh, so this judicial order, is this even a thing? We're like, yep, Section 97 of the Wildlife Act like gives us the opportunity to do that if we so see, you know, want to add or present the court with a different type of monetary fine, right? Just a different way of getting that individual into compliance. And especially roadside checks, right? You're going to get that guy that's like, Fish and Wildlife can't pull me over. You're like, actually, yeah, you know, TSA, Traffic Safety Act in Alberta allows us, like, we have all this authority, but you have to be comfortable with that, right? And then, you know, like you say, the pair, and like, you know, even the same thing, like go and shoot a little bit before you try to do this job, because having comfortability with firearms, like we go through the training, but it is absolutely exceptional to have already been a hunter and be so comfortable with a rifle that you can pick it up. And a huge example of this, right? Like we have the big carbines. We went to, our agency sends 2 groups now to the Isaac shoot. It's just a law enforcement competition shoot. And we went, there was 3 women that we got to go, and we blew a lot of the guys out of the water. Just the abilities we have. I picked up a carbine that was not my carbine, that was not my scope that I sighted in. And I beat, I think there was 54 guys in a long distance shoot at like 300, 400, 500 meters. And I got 3rd out of all of those guys. So but that just comes out of hunting, right? Like, and I just want to say, ladies can do it. You have a way better shot than a lot of the guys too. Our ability to calm ourselves down and not get hyped up on like the hormones and all these things, like it's just a bio thing, right? And that helps so much too in the job. The guys that you're checking out there, you don't have to be afraid to be out there on your own, because they don't see you as the same level of threat that they would a 6-foot guy, right? And we communicate way differently. So it helps. Like there's a bit of a shock factor, right, that we have going out there, and these guys see us too. It throws them off. And it's even more so, they're like, wow, the level of respect they have for you when you know how to handle their firearm, or you know exactly what it took to get that animal that they just shot, and you can chat with them about that. And it's amazing to have that ability.
I love that. I think you can just hear your passion for this job, which I love too. But I think that's exactly right. Women, we bring different skill sets to these jobs. And rather than seeing them as a hindrance, which I think some male counterparts do, I always see them as the benefits that we bring, right? We do bring that calmness. We bring that ability to communicate and to be able to completely de-escalate a situation in a way different way than a male counterpart would. But it does take that level of confidence. So if you're coming in and you're not really confident in your own abilities, that shines through instantly, regardless of the job you're doing. If you're a CO, correctional officer, and you go out on the range and you're not comfortable out there with those inmates, like they are like, oh, they're on you right away, right? They know you're not confident. If you're a police officer, same thing. If you're fire, if you're a paramedic, if you're fish and wildlife, like you have to be confident in your abilities. And that confidence comes with experience, but it also comes with knowledge. If you know your shit and you know your shit, then it doesn't matter what somebody throws back at you, because you're just like, well, I know that this is the statute, and I know that this is legislation, and I know that this is the rule, or I know that this is how this firearm works, or, you know, all those different things. If you're confident in that, you're unshakable when it comes to, you know, somebody getting in your face and being pissed off and angry with you because you've basically caught them doing something that they shouldn't be doing. So that's phenomenal. And way to go on the shooting. Like that's fucking wicked that you were able to do that, like without your own firearm. Like that's insane. You picked up a different one with a different scope and were still able to come third. Like bow down to you, girl. That's amazing. So good for you.
Like there's more that she won, wasn't there, than just that?
I felt even bad for putting that little brag out there, but I kind of had to, just to explain the difference, right? But I would show you if I could. Our women's team, I got the first female shotgun. because we, out of any law enforcement agency, like we run our shotguns a lot, right? We use them for bears. We have all sorts of different things you would put through a shotgun that no one would even think you could, right? We have bean bags, we've got flares, we've got rubber bullets, all of these things. We're very confident in our shotgun use. And then, of course, with this transfer to the sheriffs and the whole rapid increase in our abilities, we've got a 308 carbine, which can take, like, we have mags of 18 rounds. For grizzly bears, there is no other comparison for dealing with that. But these guns, like, they're a bit heavy. If you see, like, the other thing I want to touch on with females is, like, I think I'm still probably the smallest officer in the province. And the pair, like, you can do it, right? Like, you want to carry around a gun like this carbine that almost drags on the ground when I carry it. And it looks like kind of hilarious, but it, like, my boss, he's, I don't know, Kim, you probably know how tall he is. He's like over 6 feet. And he chooses, yeah, he chooses to take my shotgun with a small stock because I like small arms. He chooses to take that because he loves it as a little, like, pogo stick, and makes me carry this massive carbine around, and we walk together into a situation because the dynamics of that, just people, like, right, mind blowing. Yeah. And it's amazing, right? But so the guys love it too, right? But you can do it. Like, there's nothing stopping you. So our team, we did first in carbine 223. We did first in everything. I think the women's team, we went home, all of us. Yeah, what was it? Carbine, shotgun, pistol as well. And then the men's team did really well as well. Like, it's not a brag to say, Fish and Wildlife, we are accurate with our firearms.
Fish and Wildlife also uses their firearms more than any other law enforcement agency in the province, probably, right? Like, we're constantly euthanizing animals. We're constantly deploying our firearms, whether it's on predator control or we get called to a lot of injured wildlife. And in situations that the average person cannot deal with. I worked in Edmonton for 5 years. I dealt with injured deer upside down hanging off the side of 111th Street. I dealt with deer in industrial areas that were crammed in between a fence that you could barely get yourself through, let alone I have no idea how the deer got in there, and I've got to euthanize it in that. I've shot deer off of a fence in front of news cameras and hundreds of people, right? Like, we shoot our firearms in high pressure situations, and we're trained well in it. We use them well, and I think our skills are second to none.
That's amazing. And it's amazing that you guys get the opportunity to showcase those skills in these competitions and basically share that is how good you are. Because I think a lot of the times, it's kind of hidden, right? It's like, oh yeah, well, we use our firearms frequently, but there's never really an opportunity to showcase that skill set. So that's fantastic that you guys get to go to that competition.
I think there's a picture on the Wonder Wardens Instagram of the girls and all of the things that they won. So maybe check that out.
Okay, and great segue into exactly what I was going to ask you about. It really is, because I was just about to say I want to get into this, but I want to talk about the Wonder Wardens because I think it's a freaking wicked organization and what you guys are doing and advocacy for women in this career and things like that. So tell me, and I don't know who wants to take this on and tell me about Wonder Wardens, but tell me and our listeners about the Wonder Wardens. What is it? What do you guys do? What are your aims and what are you trying to achieve?
I think this is mine, since this was my brainchild. Mine and another previous officers. So when I started in 2017, there was 5 female officers in the province, which quickly went down to 3 right after we started. We lost 2. And, we've fluctuated between 3 and 5 and, for the last few years. So quickly saw the need to form some sort of group to provide not only peer support, but to promote females in resource law enforcement. And so we started the group in 2018 with the then 4, which then grew to 5 female Fish and Wildlife officers at that time. And we started doing fundraisers for the law enforcement torch run, for Special Olympics. We started doing things like the foam run, just allowed us to do some camaraderie between the female officers, but also kind of promote females in resource law enforcement and that we can exist. I said this to Kim on the weekend, but there was an old picture from one of our 5K runs that we did for the law enforcement torch run with the 4 of us there. And there was literally a comment on there that said, "Oh, I didn't realize that girls did this job." And it's like, really? It's 2024 and you don't realize that there are females in resource law enforcement? Like, come on. But that's exactly the reason why we formed the Wonder Wardens, is to promote the fact that yes, females can do this job. We can do it just as well, if not better than our male counterparts, like Therese was saying. And we have really purposeful role in these positions, and we bring something to the table that is different from maybe the male perspective. I became a Fish and Wildlife officer as a mother, and I think I brought a different perspective in that, being a mother as a Fish and Wildlife officer. We treat wildlife differently. We treat the public differently. We deal with situations differently, just like you said. I've been in law enforcement for 25 years, and I've never had to use any of my tools in a conflict situation. I think I can talk my way out of absolutely any situation I get myself into. And that's, a skill that I have that I really, think is a great thing that women also bring to the table, right? We're super proud of our Wonder Wardens. We had 2 that participated in the polar plunge this weekend. Therese was one of them. And I think it's just a great way to promote what we do and how we do it. And even though some of us have left Fish and Wildlife, we've still remained part of the Wonder Wardens group and are still promoting the cause of female and resource law enforcement, because I think it's really important.
I love that you created this group, because I think that is something, as women, we are social beings, and we like that camaraderie, and we like that ability to connect with other like-minded women, right? Again, literally why I started this podcast, because our stories aren't really ever told. We are like that hidden component in these careers. And again, for somebody to say, I didn't know that women were in this, I was saying this on that earlier podcast. I met a little girl at the pool. I was teaching an aquafit class, and she was like, when I grow up, I want to be either a police officer or like a teacher. And I was like, oh, really cool. I'm like, that's awesome. She's like, but you know what? I don't know if girls can be police officers. And I was like, okay, hold the phone. Let's have a conversation right now in the hot tub. Let me tell you all about this. Yes, you can. Right. But like, there is people out there that literally do not think that women can go into these careers, either can't or aren't able to or don't have the skill set, right? So the fact that you've created this group, and it is camaraderie and it is fun and networking and raising funds, like the polar plunge. God bless you for doing that. Thank God it was a nice weekend, because I saw last year it was like -30, and I was like, not doing that. No, thank you.
Yeah, we did it last year. That's why we thought we needed a break this year.
You're like, I'm dipsing out this year. Yeah, I mean, like, and that's fantastic, and fun things and fitness based, foam runs and things like that. I love that. I think that's fantastic, and just another way to showcase that women can do this career, and that there's all these other parts that come with the career and being a female, that you can be part of an awesome group of Wonder Wardens and have a whole new group of friends that from across the province.
One of the field officers, Dana, I must say, like, I'm so glad that you created this, because it pushes us to communicate with each other more where we otherwise wouldn't. And we're spread across the province too, right?
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah. And we do need this, as much as we come into this job and sometimes think, well, I can do it alone, right? Having you gals that just we're constantly like having these little meetings and doing these little things and pushing these little boundaries, like, it's amazing, right? And it gives us that confidence, that more so to keep going, especially when there is struggles. Because one thing we haven't really touched on is, like, of course, you're working with, like, right now there's 6 out of 130 or so male officers. You're always working with guys. Mm-hmm. And yes, it's great, but sometimes you just wanna like have a coffee and sit in the truck with a female, right? Mm-hmm. Because you don't have to, I mean, there are ways to not have to go and take the entire belt off to pee in the bush, but the guy just gets to stand there and pee right wherever he wants. Just small things like that, that just sometimes you're like, I just need a girl to talk to. And the other thing, right? Like, we have these abilities, like, I'm sure you gals would know, right? Like, the communication comes into play, right? Where we even have the CISM program, right? Or mental health awareness. Like, we have this ability to pick out, okay, that guy, I'm going to chat with him, like, something's going on. And it's amazing from me to see, as part of the CISM team, that like, this is not a stretch by saying, like, they talk to women differently, right? They'll be like, oh yeah, like, yeah, they just tell you what's going on, in my experience over the years, versus a guy, they're like, it's fine, bro, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, and the guys, I'm sure they talk together too, but being a small female, you're just, again, even amongst your male counterparts, you're not threatening. You're not, part of their boys club either, in a sense that you're not going to be talking about this stuff with beers with them later, where they're all getting together and this and that. You're separated enough, but you're still, you're a part of it. You can talk to them about the bears and stuff that they caught, and, create this rapport. but still have an eye open for them on their like mental health, right? And that, I think, comes for, I'm sure, being a mom and that kind of stuff too, right? You get this sixth sense. Hey, you want to take care of people in the office. And I know that there's this mentality of like, oh, like the girl, she'll do like the Christmas party or whatever. I look at that, I'm like, yeah, actually, like they didn't tell me to do it this year, but no one was going to do it otherwise. And bringing the whole office together in that, you know, just to go pick up some pizzas or something like that. Like, who cares about the stereotype when you're dealing with like keeping these guys, like keeping the mental health up, keeping the office like rapport up, and you know, of course, with the other women, like I try my darndest to go up and just patrol with the other officer up north here, the other female. And we've done some checks where people are like, I didn't know there was one female in the province, let alone two checking in the backcountry on sleds and no male with them. Yeah, it's awesome. But thank you, Dana, of course, for bringing this together.
The privilege 2 years ago of being the officer in charge of Lougheed, and first female in charge of Lougheed. And I think I brought a different perspective because of that, right? Like, I had a couple of counterparts ask me like, oh, are you going to be the strict drill sergeant at Lougheed? And I was like, no, because that's not who I am. That's not the personality I have. That's not what I bring to it. I'm going to be the disappointed mom of Lougheed. And if you do something bad, you are going to get the disappointing mom lecture, and you're going to get that look. And I think it worked for my troop. They're my kids, and that's how I refer to them still. Like, they're those 11 recruits that were in my Lougheed are my kids, and they know that, and they lovingly refer to me as mom. And it took a different perspective to training. It took a different perspective to Lougheed, I think, that hadn't been there before. And I was fortunate enough to have one female recruit in my troop who I love to absolute death, and I'm so happy she's part of our Wonder Wardens crew, and I'm so proud of her and what she's accomplished. But yeah, it's that pride in bringing that different female perspective to very, very male dominated, macho dominated career, right?
Yeah, I think that's what's unique too about Fish and Wildlife is, like, you know, same thing, coming in as a female for corrections. 90% of the staff are male. You know, we have more females for sure, definitely more females than you guys do in corrections, and it's growing, which is great, but it's definitely male dominated, and it's macho, right? It's you got to be the bigger man when you go out on the range and those inmates are like, you know, punking you off, and like you have to be big, right? You have to have that persona, right? But then add in guns for Fish and Wildlife. Like, I mean, hi, can we up the macho level? Like, of like, now, oh, well, now there's guns, and now there's grizzly bears, and now we're talking about manly things in the woods, right? Like, I mean, I can't even imagine the level. Like, just listening to hunters that are COs talk, like correctional officers talk, I'm like, you guys are like next level. I need to exit this conversation, what you're talking about, like, right? So I can't even imagine that, like you said, the level of, you know, machoism that goes up, and having to try and fit in with that. And again, like you said, Therese, like just the different things that make us female. I have a really, really good friend who's a fish biologist, and she was saying like, yeah, like you can't just go pee when you're out on the boat taking fish. And like, she's like, and then when it's your time of the month, you're like, we need to go to shore. And they're like, just pee over the side. I won't look. She's like, we need to go to shore. We need to go to shore. We need to go to shore. Right. And then okay. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, so there's different things.
Will not check a hunter all day until you have to stop and pee, and you run into the bush to pee, and all of a sudden a hunter pulls up behind your truck and is like, hey, you okay? Like you will not see another person the entire day until you stop.
All of us have experienced that, where you're rushing out of the bush, like, and I was just looking at a deer or something, you know, no big deal. It's honestly, it's like you make it sound like it's really hard to talk with the guys too. It's not. Like, I know that there are some women out there that are debating, like, I love hunting, I love fishing, can I do this job? You can, absolutely, right? You're going to have to train your butt off for like a couple of months to finish that pair. But I think it was either red line or blue line conditioning is what I referred to those videos to pass that pair. And I beat a lot of the guys at Wicklia. So like, you can do it. Like my time, you could go out there and beat this. My time was 3:35. Right. I did for 4 minutes. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not insane, right? Some of these guys are doing like 2:45 or something ridiculous, right? But it's totally doable. Totally doable. And like when you're a hunter yourself, like, it's just natural, right? Like, I mean, I go out and I have a lot of success. Like being a fish and wildlife officer, you're basically kind of scouting all the time, right? Like you're out there in the bush, you can see the wildlife, you're dealing with farmers that need help and all of this stuff, right? You're making a lot of connections. and good ones, right? Like, because a lot of farmers, they get frustrated with people that are, driving on the line or cutting fence, that kind of stuff. They love having a fish and wildlife officer hunt on their land. Like, of course you're going there out of uniform and asking them and those sorts of things, but especially in a place where you're involved in the community, people know you. Like, a couple of guys that I discharged in court, they came up, they're like, I think you did a school talk at my kid's class. And I'm like, oh, they're like, no, it was awesome. Thank you. And I'm like, okay, good. Like, like, it's just, you get to know the community and then they know you.
That's excellent. I'm going to wrap up with some really quick rapid fire questions. So I'm going to ask one and I'll get an answer from all three of you, and then I'll ask another one and your answers and stuff like that. So first one, easy peasy lemon squeezy. What is your favorite food or snack to eat while you are on shift or working? You're breaking down an investigation, you're tromping through the woods, you are trying to find people to do recruitment. What's our favorite food or snack? I'm going to start with Dana.
Candy cone. Love me some gummies. The bigger the can, the better. Shout out to Morgan Rosaduke, my old partner in Edmonton. Him and I would kill a case of candy cones in a hunting season.
Love it. It's portable, it's cheap, it's quick sugar, easy energy. Yeah, that's great. And can go in your pocket. Perfect.
Available at any gas station. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Therese, what's yours?
What I was literally nibbling on earlier was I hunt and I butcher all my own animals and I do everything. So my own pepperoni or jerky is my go-to all the time.
Excellent. It saddens me. My husband will not eat deer in any way, shape, or form. Like he just doesn't like the taste of it. And my absolute favorite thing in the entire world is deer jerky. And I'm just like, I need you to get over this, babe. Like I really just need you to just get over this. And he's like, nope. So it has to be moose in our house, but deer jerky, and when it's done right, oh my God,
yeah,
the best.
Or elk
the
too.
best.
Maybe he'd eat elk.
Okay, well I'm gonna have to try that out. No, just trick him. Okay, Kim, what about you?
Well, I just sit at my desk, so I don't really, I don't have any outside cool snacks. I don't know. I just ate a banana.
There you go.
Kim makes some killer biscotti. She loves a biscotti.
Biscotti.
And pies. You two are really good at making pies.
Some years.
Look at these hidden talents that these women have. Excellent. Okay. Next question is, what would be a piece of advice that you would give to somebody that's looking to get into this career? And I know we've shared quite a few different things from the recruitment standards and, what to train for and how to be confident, stuff like that. But one specific, you have some, young female that's come to you and said, I think I want to do this. What are you sharing with them, Dana?
Go get your education. The degree in Lethbridge, by far, finish your degree, do your whole degree, because if you choose not to get into fish and wildlife, or if you're like me and, you go down for a few years and you want to have a change in careers, that degree will get you into any law enforcement agency. It will get you into any environmental agency and give you a ton of options for your career pathing. So, if fish and wildlife is your goal right now, it's awesome. That degree is great for that. But if something changes and something happens, it works for policing. It works for an environmental protection officer. It works for numerous consulting companies. It just gives you a ton of ability to change your path. So
awesome.
Get your education.
Awesome. Love that. Okay, Therese, what's coming from you?
What's coming from me is, I would say, first off, be realistic with yourself. Like, can I go out there and shoot a bear if I need to that's charging me? Can I go out and arrest somebody if I need to? Right? Ask those hard questions of yourself. And like, are you willing to live kind of wherever for the first couple of years? We don't have forced transfers, but you got to start somewhere, right? You can move around afterwards. But primarily, I would say, call us. Like, I know we do these meetings at Lethbridge College and, we say, look, I'm around, give me a call, ask me some questions, shoot me an email. And when I was in college, I had a couple officers that had said, yeah, do that. And my brain was telling me these lies of like, oh, but they're so busy, or they don't want to talk to me, or all of these things. No, just call. If it's you have an interview and you want to go through a mock interview, call us. If you have questions about the application of a job in a certain location in Alberta, or questions about the legislation, anything, email, call. I love to do this. This is part of why I'm an officer, is the education and promotion of recruitment and retention. And I will answer you as soon as I'm able, whether I'm working or not. So like, call and become part of this camaraderie, right? If you have a question, you want to see if this will work for you, just reach out. We're here. We want to talk to you.
That's awesome. And I mean, or you could go like totally old school, like Kim did, and write a little letter that maybe somebody will keep for 25 years and then send it back to you. You never know. But I think it's true. It is true. And as women, we really do have that tendency to create our own narrative in our mind that's like, well, I don't want to be a bother. I don't really want to, or I don't want to seem stupid by calling and asking this question. Ask the question. Always ask the question. Ask the question, because otherwise you just don't know the answer. And it could be something that's very simple, like help with an interview question, or I don't really understand this legislation, or I don't like. Ask the question. That's literally what we're here for, is to share the knowledge that we all have, right? And the more knowledge that we can share, the better everybody gets. And I think that is another thing that as females we bring. Males, I find, oftentimes are very competitive and they want to hold that knowledge in and they don't want to share it, because then, well, then that's going to make that person as good as me. Fuck it. I want you as good as me. I want you better than me. So I'm going to share all that knowledge with you so that you can go forth and do even better things than I was able to do, right? So yeah, awesome. Okay, and Kim, what would your piece of advice be?
I think I would say the same thing. Obviously, your education is important. Make sure you understand what the job is, and the way that you do that is by talking to officers. I get one of the things I do in my job is I have charge of the email account where people can send emails or people phone me directly. Sometimes I don't get back to you right away because I'm busy, but if you're persistent, I will be able to get back to you, right? So if I didn't call you back after a week, maybe try again, because it's not that I don't want to talk to you. I absolutely do. And make sure you talk to officers. I actually have a list of officers that I'll hook you up with. I'll say, hey, where are you based in the province? And then I'll send you to an officer maybe close to you. We don't have the ability to ride-alongs anymore, but officers, obviously, as you can see, love to talk about what they do in their jobs, right? So absolutely do that. And the last advice I would say is don't get your mom to call for you.
Oh, praise. Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you for saying that. I don't know what the fuck is going on lately, but like the amount of moms that I have, hi, my son has applied for this and I need to book him this. I'm like, how old is your goddamn son? Is he 21? He's 21. He could book his own damn test. Are you kidding me? Or wives call. There's no, I'm going to go on a tangent here. There's no fucking way I would ever book an appointment for my husband. He's a grown-ass man. Book your own goddamn appointment. What the wife? Well, I don't know if that date works for him. Well, you know what? Maybe you need to get Peter to call me himself then. Or Peter can go online and book his own goddamn thing because Peter's an adult.
The worst one I had
was
a lady calling on behalf of her daughter's boyfriend. That was the worst one.
No, Lord. And then, because then you're just like, I'm not hiring you on this sole principle, the fact that you can't even organize your own goddamn life to get your shit like booked or figure out the questions. Yeah, I totally. Thank you for that amazing piece of advice, Kim. Thank you for that. Okay, on that note, I'm going to wrap this up. It has been a fantastic time with you guys today. I've learned so much. Again, like I always say, I learned so much from you guys, just the different facets of this work. And fish and wildlife, I'm not familiar with at all. So just hearing all the different things that you guys do and, the legislation and the roles and responsibilities across the branch as a whole, fantastic. Obviously, 3 fantastic women here, fully invested in this career, looking for women to join them. So if you are interested, I will be putting a bunch of information in the show notes on the recruitment, contact information for these ladies. If you want to get a hold of them and have those questions answered, have that conversation, that will all be in the show notes. But it has been a treat today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Any last words you want to give to our listeners before we sign off?
We absolutely are looking forward to your applications. We can't wait to hire you.
You get hired and we'll join Come Shoot an Isaac, right? Or maybe move a grizzly bear while the guys go have a coffee or something.
Best job in the world.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, listening, giving me your time, your energy, and your attention. I completely appreciate it. Make sure you check out our next episode with another badass female first responder anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at bluelinefitnesstesting.com. I hope you stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and watch your 6.